Welcome to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is Colin, and next to me is the Doctor himself.
Hello.
And as always, we're joined by our producer, Richard.
Ahoy, hoy.
Each week, we talk about the world of DC Comics and field questions from listeners like you, while complaining incoherently about how little this all makes sense. Oh, no, wait, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. I like how we've included that as almost all three of us do that, but that's just...
Yeah. If any of the listeners want to actually send in ways that Colin can describe himself, please do so. You can send it to our email at drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, don't be kind at all.
Yeah, no, please be mean.
Actually, is it okay if I steal something from a different podcast as long as I say that I'm stealing it?
Yeah, I'm curious.
I'm going to steal something from John Gabris's podcast, High and Mighty. If you go on iTunes and rate us 5 stars and then write something about how Colin reacts in an episode, describe how he
we'll include it.
Then we'll say it live, but you have to rate us 5 stars.
I like that. That's even better. Now if you email us, I'm not going to do it.
And it also should kind of be in your own words. It shouldn't be a quote of something I've said.
No. It literally has to be a way that you can describe yourself.
Yeah.
I don't think iTunes lets you write quotes of things that you've said.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's protected.
I do swear a lot. All right, this week in news, Shazam to start production in February 2018.
That's right. So we are recording this podcast on day of the week, just as San Diego Comic-Con is getting going.
Also on this day of the week.
On day of the week.
What day of the week is it?
I just said it. We're recording this podcast on day of week. And so they just announced that Shazam is going to be the next movie in the DCEU to enter production. So right now Justice League is in post-production and has been doing some reshoots, and it comes out in November. Aquaman is in production right now. And Shazam is actually going to be the next one on the docket, which is
Shaquille coming back?
That's Kazam.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
You know that there's actually a big conspiracy where everybody thinks that there's a movie called Shazam that exists that never actually does.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Shaquille's not coming back.
He never went anywhere.
Shaquille has played a DC hero.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get into that another time, but watch Steel. But at any rate, this is kind of exciting news because the whole Shazam project it's been kind of odd. They announced years ago now that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would play Black Adam, who is one of Shazam's arch enemies. But then they were
he should be Shazam.
And then they were they gave him the choice. And he said he wanted to be Black Adam.
Because I feel like he would be a perfect Shazam. He's got that weird
He's got the fun, but I'm excited to see his Black Adam. But at any rate,
that sounds real dirty. I'm excited.
I really want to see his Black Adam.
Guys, come on.
But they announced that, and they said there was going to be a Shazam movie, and then since then the news is just ground to a halt. They cast The Rock, and then there's been no news about a Shazam casting.
I feel like Captain Marvel just kind of eclipsed that, and they.
Well, I mean, different studio, but I'm not sure exactly what happened with it. And there was talk that it was going to be in 2020 or something like that. And then they revealed that Black Adam wouldn't be the bad guy in it. He's probably going to be the bad guy in Man of Steel 2. Although that's not confirmed, but that is probably what's happening. So it's kind of exciting to hear that Shazam's going into production. And it means that if the previous thoughts are true, that Black Adam won't be the villain in it, then it means reasonably there's only 2 other Shazam villains big enough to warrant being in the first movie. It's either Mr. Mind, who is a kind of telepathic, super smart.
Did anybody pick up on the Pokemon joke? No? Okay.
No, I missed that entirely.
You missed Mr. Mime?
Oh,
Mr. Mime.
The irony that he says his own name.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's either Mr. Mind, who's a telepathic, super intelligent caterpillar, or...
Wait, what? It sounds like Alice in Wonderland.
Or...
It is.
It's Dr. Savannah, who's this very, brilliant, mad scientist
Well,
type.
my name is Dr. Savannah. I like as a minju.
No, not Savannah. Not like Savannah, Georgia. It's just Sivana.
Go on into those fields, boy.
We gotta stop going to this place.
Wait.
But
you go give me yourself a Shazam for yourself. You a smarter boy.
Shazam is what he says.
Hello, Shazam. I do declare.
But yeah, so it's kind of exciting. It's like it's a little unexpected that movie is going into production so soon. So they must have something going.
Is there a director attached to it?
Not that I know of, but who knows? Maybe they've just played this super close to the chest or something. But at any rate, yeah.
All right. Gotham Comic-Con poster teases young Bruce Wayne as Batman. Wait, am I getting a Joseph Gordon-Levitt Batman?
No, it's talking about the TV show.
Oh, bored.
But if we go back to just last episode, I think, where you were talking about
he says a lot of things. I don't know.
I can't remember if it's last episode or two
ago. A young,
ago.
hipster version of Batman. Yeah.
So you're definitely getting a young Batman
who's very frail looking.
Is this Dave Franco?
No, the actor's name is David Mazouz.
Close enough.
A Dave.
Yeah, he's a Dave.
So they have been listening.
Dave's not here.
But have you been watching the show? Because I fell off at season 2.
I also stopped watching after season 2.
Dr. DC.
Actually, I might not have even finished.
Dr. DC. Okay, where did you stop off? Because I stopped off when all the bad guys got out of the prison.
So guys, spoilers.
So for context for Colin.
If you're listening to Dr. DC, I feel like you're at least aware.
Whoa. What about me though?
You're on it. It doesn't count.
Shit.
Context for Colin. So Gotham. The premise was that this TV show would be like a detective show that took place in Gotham City, and basically in the pilot, the Waynes get shot.
Great concept.
So then you follow Detective James Gordon, and you see the corruption of the city, and Carmine Falcone is one of the bad guys in the first season. You see a young Penguin working his way up through the mob.
Penguin is amazing on that show,
and he's incredible.
Best part of my opinion.
And it was a really great premise. They did a couple of weird things in the first season, but generally
weird startup of characters that in timelines that didn't really make sense for what they would become.
Not necessarily in that first season. A little bit, but not too crazy.
I feel like they started playing around with the idea of introducing the Joker and then just bailed.
They did, and they were right to. But then in season 2, they were like, no, let's double down. And season 2 ended up going full supervillain. Mr. Freeze, his whole accident. And he becomes Mr. Freeze in season 2. I think that's right. But basically, as soon as full-fledged supervillain started happening on that show, I was out. Because I firmly believe in that idea that Batman is as much a danger to Gotham as he is a help, that his existence kind of escalates. Even in those Nolan movies, they talk about escalation.
Yeah.
But it's that idea that Batman is in some ways the catalyst for these villains. And they introduced so many villains basically fully formed without a Batman, which is weird. So from what I understand, this past season 3, they've been moving David Mazouz, this young Bruce Wayne, really quickly towards starting to fight
weird.
crime. I think he starts
he saved some old people with a mask on.
Yeah, he starts punching criminals in the season finale.
Well, that's a good place to start.
Yeah, but he's 14.
But
we're getting young version of Batman. He probably won't be Batman so much, but
he's preteen man.
Well, because he hasn't even left for to do training with Ra's al Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul is in season 3. He's played by the guy that played Dr. Bashir on Deep Space Nine.
Okay, first of all, great casting.
Second
of all, what? Already? Yeah. I feel because
the Lazarus pits are in there already.
What?
Yeah, this is what I mean. They already did so they still call him Jerome, but it's basically the Joker. They did the death of the family. Death of the family thing where he cuts his own face off and wears it as a mask. They already did that.
Whoa. Okay. So is it that comedian? Yeah. That, shows up at what's her name's?
And here's the other thing. Spoiler alert. There's already at least 6 different people who have been brought back from the dead on this show. Literally brought back.
Wow, they
are
just diving into being Batman, aren't they?
They should have just made a Batman show. I think
I loved the concept. I remember seeing a lot of the preliminary. Did you see any of the creation of the show videos that they did right before? And it looked great. They spent so much time developing what the essence of the show would be.
I think they just got impatient. I
think the fans were getting impatient.
But you have to do one of two things. You either say we're making a detective show in a world pre-Batman, and you just accept that there are no supervillains or limited supervillains, or you say we're making a Batman show and Batman will be in it and he won't be 14. But they made the detective show, and everyone was like, "Oh, it would be really neat to see Poison Ivy show up." And then like Poison Ivy was like 12 in the first season, and they've artificially aged her through some sort of story thing now. So now she's like an adult. Like the show makes. I know there's a lot of people that like Gotham, and
I love that first season.
And the one thing I will say is that the casting has been terrific. They've picked the right people to play almost every character in that show.
I loved Butch in the first season. Like I thought, like they really great casting in the beginning.
Harvey Bullock, Penguin, Fish
Great
Mooney.
choices. What the thing that threw me off though is the second that Barbara Gordon started being a bad guy, and I couldn't buy it. I couldn't. Like I was like, how does she go from being this terrible, psychotic, bad person to becoming like his wife that he adores, and then she becomes like Batwoman at some point. I thought
that might be after I stopped watching. Basically,
no. I thought in the comic books she doesn't she? Barbara Gordon becomes part of the comics at some point.
No, you're thinking of the younger Barbara Gordon.
Yes,
Jim Gordon's niece / adopted daughter.
Okay,
who is Batgirl?
Okay, different Barbara Gordon.
This is different.
Confusing.
Yeah. But yeah, I know there are a lot of people that like Gotham. I don't want them to not enjoy it, but I can't. I've tried. I just have like a mental block with just the way I love Batman. This show makes no sense.
Well, the problem is because it comes at you like, do you like Batman? This is like Batman, and you go, it's Batman-esque.
Yeah.
Frustrating. Have you seen it at all?
No, I was going to ask if it was on Netflix.
Actually, it might be. I
have no idea.
The first couple of seasons are.
Because I feel like Netflix is predominantly Marvel stuff.
I think Gotham is up there.
The first season is great, and Penguin is wonderful, and the Riddler is great.
Yep.
Like,
so I'll just watch the first season and then
bail.
Call it quits.
I mean, that's what I would do, but if you like it, keep watching until you don't like it, basically.
Kind of like the show should have, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, well.
But this is what concerns me, though, because how quickly is Krypton going to turn into Superman?
Well, that's probably a legitimate concern. I don't know.
Because, like, is it the same teams? Like, or is it at least the same?
Oh, no, I think it's a different, like, writing team.
Okay, but it's, like, same management, though, like, at the end of the day. Like, the people, like, they're...
Yeah, I don't know. In my mind, Krypton, as a concept, works really well as, like, a miniseries and not necessarily, like, a multiple season kind
What
of
I
thing,
want to see is Krypton basically, like, start is, like, introducing the characters and then slowly takes you to the point where everything gets destroyed.
Yeah,
right up until like the last episode should be sending like.
But the problem is that people,
Clark Kent away.
Audiences and writers seem to lose patience with that, because I believe the original idea for Gotham was you could basically say, like, if we make it to season 10, at the end of the show, he'll
Batman.
put the cowl on, and that's Batman. Like that, and that would be like the right length of time.
That would be perfect, because he starts off being like I think 13.
But I mean, like, I don't totally blame them. Like, you're in Gotham City and you're seeing these landmarks, but like, just to watch the mob for 10 years, like that's tough for a comic fan.
They did a good job. I think my issue is I really liked that new character they created. What's her name?
What, Tabitha?
No, the new villain character who was the one of the mob leaders.
Oh, Fish Mooney.
Fish Mooney.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I liked
Jada
her.
Pinkett Smith. Yeah,
I thought she was great, but on a different show.
I liked her on.
I thought she was great, but I just felt like what they were doing with the rest of that show, she made it into like the super villainy thing. Like, I felt like she was too much of a character compared to the rest of them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I kind of liked her in the context of like Penguin's origin, maybe like where he gets
very
some of his theatricality and stuff like that is from Fish Mooney. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about it, but like, Gotham is kind of rapidly pushing the Bruce Wayne character into the Batman role, I think, to compensate for the fact that they already introduced all the villains.
Basically, the poster that we're talking about has Bruce Wayne, the kid, standing on the edge of a like a city skyline and like, or on top of a building and looking down. I mean, it's Batman.
And his coat goes out and it's very cape-like.
Yeah. No one's worried about this kid, just standing.
He's rich, he's fine.
His parents have been dead for a few years. Like, things are kind of weird. Why is he?
Also, that Alfred's really good too.
He is, yeah.
Who'd they get to do Alfred?
I forget.
British
I forget his name, but he is good.
I'm sure he's very well and successful, and we deserve to name him, but I don't know.
So there's some rumors around about you guys.
Oh my god.
No one gives a shit. The rumors are that Titans and Teen Titans are to merge in 2018. What?
Yeah, so again, context. So there are two different versions of the Titans. So originally, the Teen Titans was a team in the comics made up of the sidekicks. So Dick Grayson, the first Robin, Wally West, the first Kid Flash, Roy Harper, the first Speedy, who's Green Arrow's sidekick, Donna Troy, Wonder Woman's sidekick, and Garth, who was the first Aqualad. So
you mean Wayne's sidekick?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So they were the Teen Titans, but then they've gotten older. They've taken on their own hero mantles, but they're still a team together. So they're just the Titans now. So that's like Nightwing, Flash, Arsenal, Donna Troy, and Tempest in order. And then the Teen Titans are the new generation of like young heroes. So that includes like Raven and Damian Wayne as Robin, and it includes the other Wally West, the younger Kid Flash, and Cal Durham, who's the new Aqualad, and things like that. So then the rumor is that those two teams are going to merge, that the title, that the books will become one thing.
Yeah, because apparently now their like missing histories have been returned.
Yes.
And so they're all just Titans. And so what's the point of having the teen part? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a particular problem with it. I mean, it makes the roster a little big, but there have been bigger team rosters in DC Comics history that worked really well. Like the 2000s run of like Justice League of America. Basically, if you were a hero, you were in the Justice League.
Yeah.
And that was a great book. So I think it's a neat idea, and they have done a couple of crossovers where the teams meet and they team up on things, so there is some precedent for it. So yeah, I'd be interested in it.
You're all done with that?
Yeah,
you're all done with that little bit of news.
Not a lot to say.
That's not a lot to say. Fair enough. So there's a lot going on in San Diego.
San Diego Comic Con.
That's right.
Apparently, Grant Morrison
He's shaking it up.
Yeah, just shaking up the earth.
Yeah, he really is. But that's what he does.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Justice League Batmobile is on display.
Okay, have you seen this thing yet?
Yeah.
Okay, it looks different. Why does it look different? I'm curious. What you think.
Because Superman broke the last one in.
Oh, that's right.
In Batman v Superman.
Have you seen Batman v Superman?
No.
In Batman v Superman, Superman rips the top off the Batmobile, so
now
he
it's a
needed a new
convertible?
one. Yeah.
We may have to do like sit down and have you watch some of these movies, and then we'll like live tweet.
That
it or
actually
something.
would be amazing.
Okay. That's the. Okay, we're just gonna kind of like put this.
No, tell me how you feel.
I don't care for people texting or tweeting whilst movieing.
But if you've already seen it,
Well, I haven't though.
I'll sit behind you. You won't even know I'm doing it.
you don't need to do it.
Yeah.
I'll feel it though.
At any rate.
If I start tweeting, you know you've lost me.
Yeah.
That's
Because I hate tweeting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, you don't use Twitter in general, so if you started using it, you'd have to like then create an account while you're
Well, no,
watching
like,
it.
I have an account, but I just don't use it.
Oh, okay.
I use it to like,
you said yourself that like one of
complain
your
about stuff.
most recent tweets was, "Does anybody have ice cream?" So
That's true.
I don't think you're.
That's a
using
very
it
like
enough.
2007
Yeah.
tweet.
It might have been.
Just sitting here watching a movie.
So at any rate, the Batmobile got its roof ripped off during Batman vs Superman. So that's one reason to fix it up and get a new one. The other reason is that Batman at the end of that movie knows that something else is coming. Lex Luthor has like used the Kryptonian technology in the scout ship to learn about Steppenwolf and the Mother Boxes, which we see in
Great band.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
It's like a Frank Zappa.
We're
kind of thing, though.
Steppenwolf and the Mother Boxes. So he has learned about it, and that scene at the end where Batman visits him in prison, he says like the bell's been rung. They've heard it out there. They're coming. So Batman.
What's
that's
that
why
refer
Batman
to? What's it like? Because they turned on the ship, or
No, well, possibly, but it's more because Superman's dead, and I think the implication is that
Oh,
Luthor has
spoilers.
made. It's not a spoiler.
I'm just gonna call this episode spoilers.
But the implication too, I think, might be that Luthor has maybe used the scout ship to make some sort of like extraterrestrial contact.
because it definitely looks like there's way more guns on the ship. I mean, on this Batmobile.
But he's going to need them. What I'm more excited about though is that thing that's in the trailer, the like climbing, crawling like Batbot, where he like flies down and it's like, got to be good cause you're so hard to see, and then he just goes, my turn. Come together. Like that's me recreating the trailer. If it sounded exactly like the trailer, it's because I've watched it a lot.
Yeah,
but that's what I want to see. That like robot thing. Like,
well, but doesn't that kind of look like the thing that was from the Batman Lego movie?
That, but it's also from
seriously.
If you
have you not seen it?
No, I saw this. What was that super awesome adventure movie or whatever?
Oh, the Lego movie.
Yeah, the Lego movie.
The Lego Batman movie is as good as that movie.
Oh, good.
But
it's Will Arnett still.
At any rate,
wait. At what point does Will Arnett just become a real Batman?
Who knows?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Okay, first of all, if they
did that robot batsuit though is in the comics though too. He uses it against the Talons, and he says some kind of ridiculous Batman line like "Get the hell out of my cave." That's like his Air Force One line.
Yes,
and then he
get the hell off my plane.
Yeah, that's right. So like that, him having like a big like mechanized suit is canon. That's in there, but like we've never seen that in a movie. So I'm more pumped for that, I think, than the Batmobile.
Okay, that's a fair point. Though now all you have me thinking about is that I want to do like a Will Arnett like old school Batman TV show where it's like a comedy.
Oh right, like something a little campier.
Yeah.
So
that I'd watch.
So DC execs, we know you're always listening.
That's right.
We accept Venmo.
That's right.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds like we lost Adam West and we gained Will Arnett. That's what that sounds like.
I'm not stepping in that.
I don't think I'm ready to like put them in the same thing. But Will Arnett is pretty great.
I think he'd be amazing at it. You imagine him in like the actual like tights suit?
Oh yeah, no, I would love it. I think even if it was just like a one-off thing.
Only if he had the same like rectangle body type as Adam West. Like not shredded, just kind of a rectangle.
I think he already has that. That's how it works. All right, what's else on the docket?
Well, Grant Morrison just announced 2 things.
He's been like talking a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. Who is Grant Morrison in regards to DC?
Grant Morrison is a very prolific DC writer he's written lots of different things, but he's most famous as the guy who he sort of redefined what the multiverse is and how the multiverse works.
That thing that confuses Colin.
Which is a thing that confuses Colin, which we will get into in more depth in a future episode. But,
please let's not.
But he wrote like a great run of Animal Man in the 80s that like broke the fourth wall. At one point,
Animal Man.
Well, at one point, Animal Man meets Grant Morrison in the comic.
Wait, is Animal Man is he like an Animorph?
No.
Oh.
No. But Grant Morrison also, he's the guy that wrote like Wonder Woman Earth 1, the first volume, which is out. He wrote The Multiversity, which was all about all of the parallel Earths of the multiverse.
And they all
I actually went to the Multiversity. I majored in it.
I majored in so many things because it's a multiversity.
That's right.
I had like 7 majors.
At the same time.
He's written all sorts of really like iconic pieces of DC literature, and he's a very like intelligent writer. His stuff tends to
he's no Jeff Loeb.
It's very like heady sometimes. If they really cut him loose, Grant Morrison's stuff gets very sort of like esoteric.
Can you give us an example?
The best example is The Multiversity, where it's not only about traveling to other Earths, it's actually about like the nature of existence, and the bad guys in it essentially are thought.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, if I get too much more into it than that right now, that'll be the episode. But
I feel like that sounds like my experience at Multiversity.
And you're going to have...
where we're just all kicking hacky sacks around and smoking left-handed cigarettes.
Yeah.
Wait, is that a term for weed that I've never heard of?
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. Have you heard of that before?
Sorry,
left-handed cigarettes?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm square, apparently.
Because the Latin word for left-handed is to be sinistrous. It's where the word like sinister comes from, because they thought it was evil.
Dude,
so a left-handed cigarette is an evil cigarette.
Dude, you just geeked up weed so hard.
Welcome to the Dr. Entomology. or etymology, sorry. Yeah, it's not about insects.
You better not say that incorrectly.
Yeah, it's clearly not the Dr. Entomology podcast.
So it feels like this is the guy responsible for like the Speed Force.
Not technically, but he's that kind of guy.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So what did Grant Morrison do? What did he tell you? What did he say? What did he do? What did he do?
Well, if you'd let me, I will.
Wait, come on. What do you do? What do you want?
This just in. Grant Morrison just announced Arkham Asylum 2 and Wonder Woman Earth 1 Volume 2.
Yeah, so
Oh no,
not again.
Arkham Asylum and Wonder Woman Earth 1 are both obviously books that Grant Morrison wrote, and yes, he's announced sequels to both. I did have a bit of a Twitter conversation with Talking Superman that's on Twitter today, and he asked, should he make a sequel to All-Star Superman, which is also a Morrison book? And my response was, like, it's his work, so it's not like he's writing a sequel of someone else's thing. So if he wants to, go for it. But in my mind, the only reason to write a sequel is that it's a story about those characters that could only exist in the world already established in the first one. Like,
it's a fair
like these are generally like Elseworld, like alternate Earth kind of stories. So, including Earth 1, because right now the main continuity is called Prime Earth. Earth 1 is different.
Of course.
But
the prime numbers, though.
Yeah.
So I trust Grant Morrison because I love him. I think he's a terrific writer. So I
just Miriam.
Classic.
Sometimes you and I.
So in sync. So I trust that these stories are things that he feels can only work in the context of what he's already set up. So, I mean, only time will tell. I'm definitely going to read them. I mean, I'm not going to not read a Grant Morrison story, but am I like super excited that sequels are happening? Yes, but not like, I haven't been waiting for Arkham Asylum 2. I have been waiting a little bit for a volume 2 of Wonder Woman, but
I feel like you're talking about something we haven't even brought up yet.
Oh,
Arkham Asylum 2.
Yes.
It's almost like you have pages in front of you that are saying Arkham Asylum 2 on them.
Didn't we say that?
Well,
already?
no,
I didn't.
I totally did.
Yeah, you did.
I said that he announced both those.
Oh, I thought I just... Okay, I must have not been...
Well, now we have to beep this whole thing out so people don't know that I have pages. In fairness, the pages just tell me what we're going to talk about. It's not like I have answers.
That's true.
Don't look at my phone.
No, please don't. Yeah.
No, okay. Arkham Asylum 2. You haven't played any of the games.
I just finished Arkham City.
You did?
I mean, I don't have like a console good enough to play these new games. I only have like a PlayStation 2. So typically when these new games come out, I just find like the gameplay footage and just watch like like 27 hours of someone.
So when you say you finished Arkham City, do you mean you finished watching Arkham City?
Years ago I did that, but I've actually finished playing Arkham City to 100% now. I have it on my computer because
I was gonna say, I'm like, we're having sleepovers at a friend's house and he's got the console.
Yeah, I just have to like be like, can I please finish playing?
Okay, how good is that game? First of all,
it's terrific.
It's amazing. Arkham Asylum is beautiful. It's the precursor, so it's a smaller game. But
Arkham City has a great balance of what, like, the mechanics that made Arkham Asylum great. It's got a good story, but it's also open world, which is a ton of fun.
Totally. I loved Arkham Asylum though, and I'm curious to see if they're gonna kind of meld those worlds together.
Yeah.
All right, what else we got going on?
Well, I think that was it for news, but
what's going on in the news today?
But I just want to say, like, thank you to everyone that's listened to our Ragman episode, because I had so much fun doing that one, and I think Colin, you even had fun, like, reading that book and talking about it. And
shit, Rich, are you seeing this? He just put white gloves on. You know what this means? Am I getting another
bend over?
Rectal exam?
Dr. DC.
I don't call him Dr. DC for nothing.
Killed him.
So I enjoyed giving Colin a reading assignment and then talking about it so much that I thought it would be fun to do another one pretty quick on the heels. So I'm going to give Colin another comic book. I'm not going to give him any context about it or tell him anything about it, and then we'll discuss it in the next episode. Now, last time...
Ragman Volume 2.
No, last time I gave him Ragman number 1. It was from 1976. I've gone the other way. I've gone with a relatively recent comic book.
Ooh.
So, the comic that I've selected is... Speaking of Grant Morrison... The Multiversity Ultra Comics number 1.
Ooh. That sounds like a Japanese title.
This, all I'll say is that this is one of my favorite books because of how weird it is.
Good luck.
There you go, Colin.
Oh,
Same rules apply in the deposit. I need you to
Dr.
give me
DC
that,
just handed me a pair of gloves. So when do I get the comic book?
That's it.
It's inside the gloves?
Yeah.
The files are inside the computer.
That's why the glove is so oversized.
Oh, oh, okay, there it is. It's inside the glove.
Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
Yeah, so
Wait,
tune in.
This looks like Terminator.
We're not talking about it this episode. I want you to.
You're not. No.
We're doing this next.
No. You can talk about his eyes, and that's it.
We're not talking about.
Look at it. Terminator Jerry Lee Lewis.
We're not.
We're not talking about. You can only speak about his eyes.
Tune in next episode
set that
where
precedent.
we will discuss the Multiversity Ultra Comics #1.
How do his eyes look?
Like Terminator.
Okay.
No more.
If he was Jerry Lee Lewis.
That's all you get to say.
So we got some questions this week.
Got some questions now.
Yeah, there we go.
Gotta have a questions with your questions. Yeah.
It didn't even rhyme. Couldn't even say now twice.
I didn't sing for the book. I forgot. So
That's true, yeah.
So Josh Gill.
Yeah.
From
Josh Gill.
from Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, that Josh Gill.
Yeah, Josh from Facebook.
Josh Gill from
Oh,
Facebook.
okay.
We all know
Facebook
Josh Gill from
Yeah,
Facebook.
okay. What's he got to say?
He's got to say, I know the Spectre has always been associated with God. Oh, wow. Are we going
we also
spiritual?
didn't talk about what the theme of this episode.
We're going spiritual.
We are going spiritual. This episode, I put the
Brought to
call
you by
out.
the letter G. And
You put the word on the
one.
street.
I put the word of God
on
out.
the street.
Yeah. That I wanted questions about characters who were spiritual in nature, so not just magic, but actually connected to the powers of either God or demons or things like that. Heaven and hell, basically.
Heaven and hell. Yeah.
Yes.
I like that your song for just those 3 words was more impressive than the questions part.
Well, that's the kind of guy I am.
Win some, lose some. Most of them. So Josh Gill is saying from Facebook, I know the Spectre has always been associated with God, and when they rebooted everything into the New 52, DC associated Phantom Stranger and Pandora with God. Has Phantom Stranger and Pandora always had that association, or was that a retcon for the New 52?
So how much of that did you understand?
Retcons.
Hey, he's learning terminology.
That's I am
And the New
legitimately
52s.
I am legitimately impressed.
7
with Colin.
episodes in, and he's understanding what 52s are. He's understanding retcon. Anybody else in here? He knows what God is, I'm pretty sure.
Well, son of.
He did pause for a breath at the comma.
That's true. He understands commas.
So
Fuck you guys.
yeah, so there's a number of things in this question. It's a great question. So I'm going to go sort of chronologically through the sentence. So we start with, I know the Spectre has always been associated with God.
So what's a Spectre?
I have talked about the Spectre before on the podcast.
Yeah, Richard.
The Spectre is...
Explain it to us then, Colin.
Well, it's a thing that's associated with God.
I think we just about covered it. No.
Hey, moving
Nailed it.
forward.
Next question.
So the Spectre is the incarnation of God's vengeance on Earth. He's a
Nailed it.
spirit that possesses at least a fraction of the power of God, but he's always bound to a human host.
Sounds like Preacher.
He's bound to like a deceased human soul. So for example, Detective Jim Corrigan is murdered and then his soul is bound to the Spectre, and basically he enacts God's vengeance on Earth.
Does he have a daughter named Barbara Corrigan?
No.
I'm sorry.
I know they sound very similar.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so he's an incredibly powerful character, like in terms of just like raw ability.
The Spectre or God?
The Spectre.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
God's
God,
just some chump.
Just some guy hanging in clouds.
and that has always been true of the Spectre. He's no. So the Spectre has always been associated with the power of God. That's always been part of his character. Now, the Phantom Stranger and Pandora.
Well, hold on. What the next line is, and when they rebooted everything in the New 52,
Right.
which we understand that part.
Yeah, the New 52, 2011, that's when Flashpoint changed everything. And as Barry was fixing Flashpoint, Pandora reached in and basically merged a couple of realities together to make the New 52. So Pandora had a hand in that. Pandora is, as you might imagine, the Pandora, the one that opens the box and releases evil into the world.
Chick with the box.
But hold on, though. Is Pandora the box, or
No.
is it her box?
It's not even her box. She just opened it.
Oh, yeah, she did.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Didn't take too much at all. All right.
You guys are the worst. So Pandora in the New 52, you're right, is associated with a spiritual power. She released the 7 deadly sins on Earth.
That's super gaudy.
Yeah. So that's, but like what I'm saying is God didn't give her powers, but she's connected by a magic that's inherently tied to that sort of spiritual realm. And both she and the Phantom Stranger in the New 52.
Phantom Stranger sounds like a sex move. I'm not gonna lie. It sounds like it's something you could give to somebody. It reminds me of like kind of the Houdini.
Yeah, where you just disappear.
Where and then your friend comes in and replaces you.
I don't like
Except
that.
for this time, it's a stranger.
That's right.
There's just one.
That's right. Or a third hand just comes in when you're doing it. Yeah.
I don't like any of that.
Give it the Phantom Stranger.
So the Phantom Stranger in the New 52 is also connected to that power of God because he is Judas Iscariot. He is the
Jacques.
Yes. Emile Zola was also there. And so Judas betrayed Christ. And then, part of his condemnation was to be the Phantom Stranger, to sort of walk the earth, but not really be able to like interfere or influence it. But he's sort of tasked with kind of roundaboutly helping people. And he has to complete certain tasks on behalf of God. And each time he does, one of his 13 pieces of silver falls off and he's closer to redemption. So that's the New 52.
And he like slips behind a woman while she's molding something out of clay.
Yeah.
Guys, come on.
So before the New 52, Pandora wasn't connected to God that way. She was more part of the Greek pantheon, like the actual Pandora was. So not connected specifically to like the version of sin that's like the 7 deadly sins, and more connected just to a sort of generic evil and that sort of Greek myth. So she did exist, but not like
Didn't have a direct connection to God.
No, she didn't have like a direct line like that or anything. And she wasn't as like big or influential as she became in the New 52. Pandora became a bit of a central figure. She never ended up really living up to the potential that I think they had set up for her, but she was very prominent in the New 52.
God, you sound like my parents.
And but yeah, and before that wasn't really the case. Now, Phantom Stranger pre-New 52 was still connected to the power of God because there are a few different versions of his origin story. Some of them are very kind of strange. Like in one, it's sort of implied / stated that he's maybe a remnant of a previous universe, and like he managed to survive as the Phantom Stranger into like past the Big Bang and into the new universe. That one doesn't last very long. There's another one where he is meant to be sort of present at the crucifixion though, and he like basically pays off like a centurion to like get a dig in at Christ on the cross. Like he has a vendetta against Jesus, and he pays a centurion so he can like
well, everybody else is putting nails in,
and Jesus basically condemns him to this sort of life of wandering and being a stranger, and only sort of being not really being able to directly influence the world, but always a witness kind of thing.
You know what, Jesus guy, I totally nailed him.
As God is my witness. Or the Phantom Stranger. Whoever
Oh,
can
we gotta
witness
stop
it.
drinking before these.
What do you mean? We need to drink more.
Or that, yeah. So to answer that question, the Phantom Stranger, yes, has had a connection to the power of God, or as he's known in the DC universe, the Presence.
That's what they refer to as God?
Yeah. The Presence Well, here, I'll take this opportunity to talk a little bit about God himself in DC.
I thought you were going to say I'd like to talk to you guys about Jesus Christ.
About our Lord and Savior.
Just let me reach into my bag. I have some literature
it took
here.
7 episodes to find out that that Dr. DC was a Jehovah's Witness.
So in the DC universe, there are obviously a number of different gods. The Greek pantheon exists. There's like Hindu gods like Ramakrishna exist. There are Aztec gods like Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca. There's all sorts of different deities. And then also like spiritual entities like the Parliament of Trees that gives Swamp Thing his powers and things like that. But it's been very clearly established that above all of those is the power of the presence. Now, the reason they don't call him God is that they don't want him to be specifically Christian. But what they're implying is that that sort of Judeo-Christian, like those Abrahamic faiths, have it right that there is a single sort of presence at the heart of it all. So the presence is the one that gives power to the Spectre. He's the one that gives power to the Phantom Stranger. And occasionally, I mean, he doesn't show up very much, if at all, really. The presence is a very absent kind of deity.
Again, sounds like you're talking about my parents.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, I'll totally be there to pick you up for your softball game at 6.
They were supposed to bring the orange slices.
And he never showed up.
But when the presence has shown up, at least in recent comics, he takes the form of a little Scottish Terrier.
What?
Just like Richard's real parents.
They brought me a puppy to show me how much they loved me.
Yeah. Yeah, so occasionally when the presence has shown up, he shows up as a little Scotty dog.
What the fuck? I'm sorry.
I'll second that notion.
I think part of the idea is the notion that they're trying to imply that he's like a humble deity, that he takes an unassuming form, that sort of thing. But I think more than anything, like if you're the artist and you're like, hey, can you draw God in this issue for me? You're like, oh shit, like what am I going to do? It's better to pick
I was
something
really good at drawing Scotty dogs in college.
Well, no, I was going to say it's better to like just pick something weird and creative and be like, and this is the way God shows up, than to like try really seriously to draw God and then have people be like, come on.
Easy.
Like I kind of get it in that regard. So yeah,
Bull Terrier would have been better.
What I will say about God, and I said this to other people before, is I see the presence in the DC universe as a not just sort of absentee, but that he's kind of ambivalent. You know, like they talk about in Watchmen that like Dr. Manhattan is like drifting from humanity because his powers sort of remove him from sort of the everyday struggles, but also from our perception of reality. I get the sense that the same thing is true for the presence, because if you imagine that the Spectre, as God's vengeance, must therefore be a part of God, there are whole stories where the Spectre goes without a host and he goes on a rampage, destroys Atlantis, destroys Vladova, this Eastern European country, kills millions of people over and over, like on a on a rampage. He loses the ability to judge sin. He sees someone like nick a candy bar and kills them. And that seems right. And God does not ever intervene. So that to me says he's lost perspective, which I think is the idea of the human host for the Spectre, that even God recognizes that he is not capable of actually exercising the judgment of vengeance. So you tie the Spectre to a human host, imbue them with some of the power of God, and then hope that the human morality is enough. I think there's pretty good evidence in the comics to support that theory, but that's always how I view the presence. So like, yeah, technically there's a God, but like I wouldn't count on him, basically, is the way I'd put it.
He kind of seems like an evil dick.
He's no, you know, like
the
point is that he's not evil. The point is that he's just completely ambivalent, I think.
Well, I think we answered that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Josh.
So yeah, long story short, Josh,
on that.
Pandora wasn't always connected to God. Phantom Stranger has been pre-New 52.
So now we're going to jump over to Twitter.
Sure.
Twitter.
You know the land of names that I hate to say out loud.
Oh, that's my favorite.
AOTG_blog. Like what?
So that's short for Avatar of the Green. This is
Avatar of the Green. He's been great on Twitter.
He's one of my favorite people on Twitter. We chat a lot, and he runs an incredible Swamp Thing blog. So I would check that out. I'm pretty sure it's called avatarofthegreen.blogspot.com. He's great, but yeah, so that's his handle is AOTG_blog.
Not to be a dick about it, but yeah, no.
but
I'll be a dick. Yeah.
I guess ours is a little bit more direct. So pre-crisis,
what a dick.
Pre-crisis. Well, your name's Richard.
I'm allowed to be a dick.
And here we go. So AOTG_blog. Avatar of the Green. Just put it all higher. Like
maybe we should just start putting their names instead of their
just so that we don't have to edit all of this out of every episode.
Should I have been doing that?
Avatar of the Green blog. Sorry, dude.
So what does he got to say?
Well, he's just saying questionably. Pre-crisis, could Phantom Stranger travel from one Earth to another, or was he strictly Earth 1?
Right.
I feel like this is a yes now.
Now we know who Phantom Stranger is.
We know who the Phantom Stranger is. And Phantom Stranger's powers are
Did you say from Earth 1 or from one Earth?
Earth 1.
From one Earth to another.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, or was he strictly Earth 1?
Yeah. Okay, that's a confusing sentence.
Yeah, so
great question though. It threw Dick for a real spinner.
So
his dick loves a good spinner.
Jesus, no.
What does Jesus have to do with this?
Everything.
Get involved.
Oh, right, spiritual characters. And here we go.
Ow, ow, ow.
So the Phantom Stranger, yeah, we have established who he is. His powers are sort of nigh unlimited. We don't really know the full extent of Phantom Stranger's powers because they kind of come from God himself. So he can do a lot of different things.
Yeah, he can.
Now, he existed on Earth 1 pre-crisis. He is an Earth 1 character. Now, that being said, I'm going to invoke a little bit of extrapolation. There is no map of the pre-crisis multiverse. There is, however, a map of the New 52 multiverse created by Grant Morrison.
Of course.
And in this map, there is at the center, if you imagine it pictorially, there's what's called the Orrery of Worlds, where all of the different parallel Earths live. And then at the border of where that is something called the Speed Force Wall. And then beyond that, there's a sphere of existence where there are different realms that include like the dream realm or the nightmare realm, but they also include heaven and hell. So what that map implies is that heaven and hell are multiversal. That if you exist on any of those Earths, you are good or whatever, you gain access to heaven.
Same heaven and hell.
It's the same heaven. Now, that's not to say that like the power of heaven can't partition you off or you only see a little bit of it or whatever, but it basically implies that those realms are multiversal. So if we assume that the structure of the multiverse is relatively the same, which we can kind of do because we know that beyond that is the monitor sphere, where the monitors basically keep track of and index and monitor the multiverse, and they existed, at least one of them existed pre-crisis. So if we assume that the structure of all of that is the same, then if the Phantom Stranger gains his power through the realm of heaven and the power of the presence, we can make the argument that he would have the ability to travel between worlds because that power comes from a sphere larger than the Orrery of Worlds.
Well, goddamn, I think you answered that question.
Yeah. So I'm doing that because
Mr. Green.
I can't read every single issue of comic books. There might be an issue where Phantom Stranger specifically goes to another Earth. There may be no issues where that happens, but I believe, based on that logic and reasoning, that he could have if he didn't.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Does that make sense to you, Colin?
None of this shit makes sense to me.
He did say that at the top of the show.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
That's a fact. We're going back to Facebook.
All right.
You know, where people have real fucking names.
They got faces, they got books, you know.
They got
Facebook
names. They got faces. Adam Upper.
Upper, I barely knew her.
Go home. Just go home. Just go
I
home.
am home.
Don't give it away.
I didn't say where it was. I mean, we're in the Bat Cave.
Yes.
We haven't named this studio.
No, we haven't.
We should get a big piece that goes right there on the wall.
It might piss off other people who record in the studio.
Yeah.
But sure, yeah.
We lease the Bat Cave.
Yeah.
So
Batcave and Co.
yeah.
Adam Upper says, I wish my rhyming game was better to ask what the deal is with Etrigan the Demon. This question may have a follow-up. I'll keep an eye out.
So when things are in brackets, you don't have to read them out loud. So
I felt like it was important to read it.
yeah,
So I went there. and did.
yeah, so the follow-up was I asked Adam if he specifically wanted me to talk about how Etrigan is a rhyming demon or if he just generally wanted to know what Etrigan's deal was. And he said,
My dog does not like this question. I'm just
well,
gonna
it is
say.
about demons.
She is rhyming, though. Every bark sounds the same.
That's true. So he just wanted to know generally what the deal is with Etrigan. So
Your dog's like Bark Dylan.
Charles Barkley.
Go home.
it's terrible.
Was that your Charles Barkley?
No, that's Frank Caliendo's Charles Barkley. I'm just doing it.
Okay.
You're doing an homage to a comedian interpretation.
A comedian I don't even really
Oh
like.
my god.
Ooh, shots fired.
So Etrigan the Demon. I'll start at the beginning. So if we go to like Arthurian times, Morgane Le Fay is this like sorceress, and she's attacking Camelot, and it's a really desperate battle, and Camelot's about to fall, and Merlin summons this demon from hell to help fight. And then when he realizes that Camelot is going to fall anyway, he binds the demon to a man named Jason Blood. And they...
What a terrible name. My name's Jason Blood.
But imagine like he's like, I need to bind the demon to someone. You, Lenny. You, Chris. Or you, Jason Blood. Well, I guess I'll bind him to you.
Well, hold on. Why don't those first two guys get last names also?
Yeah. Well, the one was Lenny Bile, and the other was Chris Mucus. They were all different.
What are these
bodily fluids?
This is a name from a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles episode or something, or like a Nukem High.
Yeah. So at any rate,
My name's Jason Bile.
Jason Blood.
My name's Lenny Bile.
Jason Blood is bound to Etrigan the Demon, and then for thousands of years they are together. They wander the earth together. They wander hell together.
Because you're my best friend.
I mean, yeah, a little bit, right?
Talking about my best friend.
Now, where the rhyming comes in is kind of twofold. Jason doesn't have to technically say the rhyme to become Etrigan. Sometimes he can just write it or whatever, but he basically says, "Gone, gone, O form of man, arise the demon Etrigan," and then he turns into Etrigan the Demon.
That's terrible.
And then
It rhymes.
it does rhyme though. It's actually a longer rhyme, but he only really uses those two lines of it.
Lazy.
Yeah. So
Kids these days.
Etrigan the Demon has like sort of the demon powers you'd expect, like super strength. He can like breathe fire. He can sort of like raise the dead. He can like the Eldritch blasts,
Okay.
like all those sort of.
Jason Blood, and he like breathes fire. It's the most metal thing I've ever heard.
It is super metal.
Hold on. What year did this kind of develop?
You mean like in real life?
Yeah.
Real time.
Etrigan the Demon would be 60s, 70s.
Oh
maybe?
wow, ahead of its time.
You know what? I feel like I need to correct myself then. It's not kids these days, it's kids those days. Kids these days.
Thank you, because I know that was like burning
Nice.
inside somebody.
Yeah, one of our young listeners.
Actually,
Kids these days suck also, but kids those days.
I believe exactly that it's from the
are terrible.
1960s, so there would technically not be from these days, but it would actually be from those days.
And now that all of our listeners have been offended and stopped.
hold on, I'll start pulling up the racial work.
Yeah. No.
I've done it enough. It's okay.
Yeah, so that's part of where that rhyming comes from. But Etrigan the Demon himself often speaks in rhyme. And what that comes from is it's like an indicator of his like class of demon. He's basically like demon aristocracy, and they get to rhyme. That's the indicator of like demon nobility, basically, is rhyming. There's a point where he kind of like loses that status, and Etrigan stops rhyming. He just speaks normally for a bit.
My name is Etrigan, and I'm a demon. I'm sorry.
So you've lost your nobility.
Yeah. Nobility
How is rhyming?
I always try to, and I just can't. I can't get there.
You've got great like pitbull rhymes down where you basically just pick the same sound twice.
Yeah.
Picture me with a Kodak. Go to Times Square. Picture me with a Kodak.
Also,
I hate pitbull so
still
much.
the Kodak.
But so that's where the rhyming side of Etrigan comes from. Now, Etrigan the Demon has shown up in a lot of different forms. In the New 52, he was part of a team called the Demon Knights, which took place during Arthurian times, and it was like he and Vandal Savage and Madame Xanadu, I think.
Is that Fred Savage's family?
Yes.
Xanadu, great movie.
Yeah, not related. There were no roller skates.
Xanadu.
But yeah, so he's a demon, but he's on the side of the angels. Etrigan is like, because he's bound to Jason Blood, he fights for good with demonic powers. But then you get these like little bits where like if they go to an island and like something bad's happened there and it's like covered in bones or whatever, he'll say something like oh, looks like home, or like you get like he's got that sort of like kind of dark sense of humor, and you know he's demonic, but you also know you can count on him to like fight with the good guys. But yeah.
I like that. I like that. Just it sounds like a cool character.
He is actually. He's a really, really fascinating
He's a
character.
good guy, you know.
Yeah, he's
He's a little rough around the edges,
but deep down inside,
hellish and demonic
Yeah.
and all, but he's a good guy.
I'm not sure exactly what that accent was. It was like New York, but like
Maybe Long Island.
yeah, he's a good guy. Hey, my name's Colin. You know.
No, I don't know. Tell me more.
And,
Generic mouth of the Hudson.
That's he's a pizza paisan. You know.
That's basically what that accent was.
Sorry, you guys. We're going to get back to the regular programming immediately.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that kind of answers what the deal is with Etrigan. He's been part of the Justice League Dark, like teamed up with like magical heroes and things like that. But yeah, usually if a story goes to a dark place, even if it's with a character like Batman or something, Etrigan has a tendency to show up. But he's a really, really neat character. So if you ever find like a comic book or you see a story that you know features Etrigan in it, I suggest reading it because they're always a lot of fun.
All right, so moving along, still in the world of Facebook, Mallory Vanier says, not sure if this fits in this category.
Well, then why the hell did she put it in there?
You gonna let me finish doing
Wait, there's more?
But
The sentence isn't just not sure if this fits in this category.
But are there particular instances where characters receive their powers? Example through lightning, radiation, etc.
I think there's more.
Oh, yeah, there is. Where those powers are specifically evil, or do villains receive the same type of powers as other characters and just choose to use them for chaos destruction rather than good?
That's a really, really excellent question.
It's a really long question. We had to put it on 2 pages.
Yep, and page breaks really throw Colin, so I apologize for the pause in there.
He struggles with grammar as it is.
We should have
learned commas.
We should have taped these together.
Yeah, I apologize.
Next page.
We need to get legal.
Oh,
we
yeah.
need legal size paper.
I'll put the little arrow that points right at the bottom of the pages from now on.
That's right. Yeah.
The little paper clip that's like,
right.
over this way.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm a paperclip. What can I do for you?
I see your friend's having trouble with grammar.
Oh, that guy. Forgot about
There's
him.
nothing I can do.
Yeah. Try updating your software. Right. So what Mallory is asking is if there's an inherent good or evil to a type of power. And the short answer is no. But there is an element of inherency of good or evil in people. DC tends to arc this way very much, where people who do bad things, you can tell whether or not they're good deep down, or people who do good things, you can tell whether or not they're bad deep down. And sometimes it's buried very deeply, like sometimes a character spends years as like a murderer and then they become a hero. Like it could be deep in there, but the seeds are usually sown that
deep in their butt.
No, that those good things are in there. So like Catwoman, was a thief and a criminal for a long time, but you always knew that if push came to shove, Batman could count on her. She's inherently good, even if she acts evilly or badly. And that is true all through the DC universe. There is an inherency of good or evil in characters. So in the context of getting powers, no, like lightning powers aren't universally good. We know that from Shazam and Black Adam, or from Flash and Reverse Flash, or from let's see. Livewire or Black Lightning. Like those, there are characters who are good and characters who are bad. They receive the same power, sometimes in a similar fashion, but it's their character that defines their arc, whether they're going to become a hero or whether they're going to become a villain, rather than the power itself. And we know that that's also true in the context of what we've been talking about with like spiritual powers, because we just talked about Etrigan the Demon. He gets his powers from hell. But he's a good guy, because in his character, in his soul, and in the soul of Jason Blood, he's a good guy. Sometimes there are instances where they have to kind of wrestle with that power, and maybe it's a corrupting influence, but the idea of whether they're inherently good or evil still lies within them as opposed to the power.
Whoa. Yeah, that went way up there.
So this last question, I actually copied the wrong one.
Oh.
So I'm looking at it right now, and it's very long. I don't know if you want me to read it.
Sure, yeah.
Because I'm on Facebook right now. It's from the same guy. That's why I got it confused.
Okay.
I just love that.
I kind of like
on our printout. It's like ha ha ha. You're going to regret this.
Well, that's what he wrote, and then I realized it was from a different question set. But
okay.
I like the way this guy asks a question, but this is a very long question. But I'm kind of curious to see.
Okay.
As I'm reading it right now. Several people have said that over the years, DC's unofficial religion is Christianity-based. Given the relatively recent origin of Phantom Stranger, which I hate, as I'm of the belief that he should always remain a mystery, as well as characters like Ragman, Spectre, etc.
Yeah, Ragman.
It seems a Judeo-Christian god is prominent, but Deadman has Rama, Shazam has, Shazam, Diana is the daughter of Zeus, etc. So other gods do exist. Does that mean, in your opinion, that all gods exist and are real, or one true god exists and the rest of them are super powerful ancient beings with godlike power levels?
Right. So this is actually a great question, I think, to tie a few different things that I've said together.
Yeah, I thought so too. It seemed like he sort of did that. I apologize, I didn't copy it.
Right, so
we had like no page left on this last, no paper left.
Yeah,
it's all
I know.
just so much other stuff
just,
to talk
there's
about.
very little
Talk points, etc.
So we already mentioned, and I think I actually mentioned some of the examples that that were in this question. Yeah, Deadman has Ramakrishna. That's a Hindu god. We know that the Olympian gods exist. We know that there are. I mentioned the Aztec gods, Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca. We know that there are. We know that there are Judeo-Christian powers in there. When I talked about the structure of the multiverse, and I talked about that sphere where there are those other realms, there's it's not called heaven, but there's another realm that basically would be like where Olympus would sit, this sort of extra dimensional kind of place where those kind of gods would exist. And that applies to the pantheon of gods. Again, that realm isn't one room. They're not all sitting in a room together. It's one of those places where it's kind of partitioned off and by Earth and by whatever, but it exists multiversally as like a whole sort of space. And the wide pantheons of gods exist there. Now, the presence, who we've established, is like the Abrahamic God, the god of like Judaism and Christianity and Islam by extension. That God does not exist there. That God is bigger than the multiverse itself, because when you peer back in time in comics, at the beginning of existence, it's always represented by a hand, and that hand is the hand of the presence. And the Spectre himself tried to defend that moment against the Anti-Monitor during Crisis on Infinite Earths. So as the infinite multiverse was being destroyed, the Spectre, an agent of God himself, tried to defend that moment. Because if you witness the creation of the universe, then horrible things happen, basically. And effectively what that establishes is that the presence is bigger even than those realms of the multiverse. It's bigger than the Monitor sphere. It's bigger. He's beyond what's called the source wall. The source wall is a literal physical wall that you can see in every universe of DC. And if you touch it or try and move beyond it, you become a part of it forever. You can't go past it.
And he made Earth pay for it.
Yes. It's a great wall.
What a dick.
It's the biggest wall. You see it in every universe.
Holy shit. I didn't realize that we had a bag of Cheetos in a suit being a part of our podcast.
Yes, I'm here. I'm the crunchy kind.
Those are my favorite kind of.
Oh, those are really
Cheezies.
good. No,
Like
that's
the real
the hot ones, though.
Canadian.
Make Cheetos crunchy again.
No. Like cheesies.
Yeah, but the crunchy ones.
Yeah, the crunchy ones.
Yeah, but the spicy ones are crunchy too sometimes.
No. There's only one kind
Cheetos.
of cheesies.
Cheetos are the crunchy ones.
The cheesies.
Cheesy ones, the big puffy ones?
No.
We are
Cheetos
spending
are the
lot of time on this.
Cheetos are the crunchy ones.
No. Cheesies are like the all Canadian cheddar ones. They're really good. I hope this stays in.
Tune into Colin's podcast, Cheesy or Cheeto. That was the theme song. So the source wall is the boundary of the multiverse, and we know from the multiversity that there are multiple multiverses. So beyond all of those is where the presence exists. So to bring this back to the question, that to me says inherently that then yes, DC exists in what we would call a Judeo-Christian universe, because the power of the presence, who is that version of God,
the power of the presence compels you.
Yeah, it does compel us, and he's also bigger than the power of any other of those pantheon. Now, what makes those other beings qualify as gods? I believe in the context of the comics, godhood is not necessarily about who's more powerful, because Superman has kicked the shit out of some of the Olympian gods. Superman's not a god. But what makes you godlike is not just having the power of something, but actually embodying that thing, like being that thing. So Metron is one of the new gods. He sits in the Mobius chair, and he has the knowledge of everything, thanks to the chair.
Is that a chair that's just constantly going around with?
No, it should be, but that chair gives him the knowledge of everything. So he doesn't just have that knowledge, though. He's kind of part of the chair. So he is knowledge.
One with the chair.
He is knowledge incarnate. He is the god of knowledge.
He's the chairman of the board, if you would.
Apollo is the god of the sun. He's not the god of every sun. He's an Olympian god. He exists on Earth. He's the god of our sun. Or one of, because there's also Quetzalcoatl.
Who art in heaven.
That'll be thy name.
Oh, man. So many references.
Really
what a
good.
book.
This is going to be a hell of an episode to edit.
Oh, yeah.
See, I threw hell in there too.
Yeah, no, I
nailed it
appreciate
first.
it.
But yeah, so basically, godhood to me in DC means that you actually are the embodiment of your power or your thing. The presence is far and away beyond that. It's definitely like a Judeo-Christian universe. I don't want that to come across, though, as DC saying, like, I don't think they would ever explicitly say, like,
They're a Christian organization.
like, or that they would say, like, Hindu god, less powerful than ours. But essentially through the writing, that's what they've said.
Through no fault of their own.
Yeah, like, I don't think anyone's deliberately doing that, but, like, let's think about it. Most of these comics, at least their origins of these characters and things like that are in New York City or Los Angeles or somewhere in the States, written by white people who were likely Christian. That's of course that's where the writing comes from. Of course that's what was going to happen. But you could maybe also make the argument that Judaism and Christianity and Islam in the world of DC maybe still have it wrong. Like they see the influence of the presence and they know he exists, but maybe they still are misinterpreting what that spirit or what that quote unquote God actually has planned or in store or has created. But that's a different conversation, I guess. Maybe more philosophical than we want to get. But
yeah, that's probably for a different podcast.
I hope that kind of answers the question, though.
This has been a really interesting podcast episode about spiritual characters in DC. Because when I think about comic books, I think more like science-based than I think religion-based. And so it is quite interesting to see all of those subjects touched upon. You have everything from Hinduism to Christianity. It really does quite cover the full spectrum, which is cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I made very brief reference to it, but then there are also quote unquote spiritual realms and entities that aren't part of like the fabric of our religious awareness. So like Swamp Thing gets his power from a place called the Green, and his sort of the people he answers to, quote unquote, are called the Parliament of Trees. And so that's the combined consciousness of all plant life on Earth is the Green. And then the combined consciousness of all animal life, also known as like the morphogenetic field, is what gives Animal Man his powers. And he answers to the Parliament of Limbs. And there are all of these like other realms that in a way have their own spirituality. They are as much one of those spiritual realms as Olympus or as heaven or hell, but they exist in the context of like nature, and they exist outside of the religious side of it, where there isn't an established religion necessarily built around them. And DC's full of those too, and I think those all count as part of the same tapestry. So it's kind of neat. They have their own sort of fictional take on the religious stories of our real world, but they also have contributed their own. It's almost where the science of like superheroes kind of meets with spirituality, and I think where those things like intersect is a pretty interesting area, and DC does a lot of it.
Does Marvel do stuff like that at all, or that you're aware of?
I think so. I'm sure I'm about to say something wrong. But Doctor Strange is the sorcerer supreme of the Marvel universe. For now, it's about to be Loki because they're changing it. But Doctor Strange channels magic, and the Ancient One in the comics was not Tilda Swinton. It was like an older, almost like a Shaolin kind of monk. So I think there's an element of the spirituality in there. I assume there's a heaven and hell that exist in Marvel Comics, but I'll be honest, I don't know.
That's why you're Dr. DC.
But one of the Infinity Gems is the Soul Stone. So we know that like a spirit in comic books can exist without the body. So you have to assume that there's some version of those things out there. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's been a fun episode.
Yeah.
If you guys
Getting a little spiritual up in the Batcave.
Well, we're going to go completely the opposite way next week when we actually delve into the issue I gave Colin.
Don't look at it. Don't talk about it.
This guy looks like a total douchebag.
Put it away.
He's got like an arrow going.
Hey, whoa. Don't we bring it out?
Well, this has been another fun episode of Dr. DC. Yeah, we've had fun. There were libations. Everyone had a good time. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please do feel free to send them to our email.
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
Our Twitter account.
@DrDC.
Where you should probably re-up your name and make it something legible.
All right.
Facebook.
Dr. DC Podcast.
And for weird pictures of comic book covers, you can find us on Instagram.
Dr. DC Podcast.
Also, remember to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes.
If you rate us 5 stars and you write an intro for Colin, we will use it in an episode.
100%.
And once again, thank you, John Gabris, for the idea. Please don't sue.
99.9% we will use it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, some kind of sign off.
Hail Zoltan.
Adios.
Idiot.
All the superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.